I feel like self-care, especially in our society, is often commercialized. Okay. Hey, my name is Emma Lee. I'm a psych major and philosophy minor. I'm a senior right now as well, and I'm from Portland, Oregon. Yeah, great question. So for junior year of high school, I kind of surveyed what kind of colleges I was interested in. And so I applied to a few of them. I applied to some in California, some in Washington, and then the only college in Oregon I applied to was UO because I'm from Oregon, so I just thought that realistically, this is a good school to go to for tuition, and also it's a beautiful campus. There's like trees everywhere, and after I toured every single one, and when I went to UO, I felt like the sense of community was there. It was like beautiful, and I just saw myself here as well. Yeah, so the Duck Nest, if for UO students, and it's even open for community members, but the Duck Nest is a campus wellness center on campus, and it is amazing. So I would encourage everybody to go. It's in the EMU, the Urban Memorial Union, in room 41, and it's a pretty small space, but we pack a lot into there, so you can study in there. We also have wellness supplies as well, so we have like chapsticks, aromatherapy, sexual health supplies, menstrual products, sleep kits, tea bags. We also do programming like meditation, and I host walking groups. Like you've been to the walking groups. Like today we did a yoga and balance one. We've done gratitude ones with the Latinx Male Alliance. We're gonna do a silent disco and a picnic in the park later this term. So lots of really dynamic, fun programming. We do a lot of collaborations with student groups as well. So yeah, it's also very accessible. So all of our resources and programming is entirely free, and that's very intentional because we want wellness products to be open to all college students, because especially now it's like a really big stage in our life and there's a lot of transitioning. We're trying to learn how to adult, like we're just kind of thrown in here and trying to learn like what am I going to eat today, like what makes sense for me, how often do I want to like exercise, and what does that look like, so we try to promote different visions of that because there isn't a one size fit, but we want to give people the resources to find out what best suits their lifestyle. Yeah, so the Duck Nest, honestly, the main thing I heard from it was that they had therapy dogs, and I was like, there are dogs, I have to go now. So before COVID times, we would have like therapy dogs come in 3 times a term on Saturdays, and we're open on Saturdays. And there would be typically 3 dogs in the space, and people can just line up the door and then have like 10-15 minutes to just pet the dogs, and that's just a really great space because a lot of students have pets at home or dogs at home. They kind of miss them, so just having that pet therapy is so soothing and relaxing for students. So that was honestly my entry into the Duck Nest, and I also just loved the environment there. I feel like it's so inviting and comfortable that I just wanted to go there to pick up chapstick or just like study in there even. And then I wanted to get more involved on campus, and I just went on Handshake, the site, to learn more about internships and jobs, and I found out that there were volunteers at the Duck Nest, so I signed up to be a volunteer, and then I got in, I took a course to be a volunteer, and then I got accepted to work for the Duck Nest as a peer wellness coordinator as well. I feel like there are infinite positives to having a place like the Duck Nest on campus, because there's just so much increase in stress and anxiety. I think there's lots of statistics you can find about mental well-being in particular, really going downhill for students. It makes sense because we have all these stressors, college price and tuition is going up, housing and living costs are going up. There's a lot more pressure to like try and figure out what you want to do, and so there's so much pressure that we're under that there really needs to be a space on every campus, I believe, to educate students about taking care of yourself and learning what wellness means and what thriving means, and having those resources to learn about it, to craft it for yourself, but having that space that you can go to kind of learn more about that and have those resources. And in particular, I feel like the Duck Nest is really special in that way. I know that other campuses have it as well, but we're really a peer-to-peer model, you know? So at the Duck Nest, there are about 25 volunteers and like 5 coordinators, and we're all student workers, like undergraduates or graduate students. And I think that model is so integral for how we thrive at the Duck Nest, because we're able to relate to each other. Like, we're all college students. We know what it means to have midterms in school and like all these extracurriculars, and we can just relate to each other on a different level rather than professional staff. Even though they are so important, we just have a different relationship with each other because we are all college students and going through this experience together. So yeah, I feel like the peer-to-peer model is so important that way. I think that's a great question as well, because I feel like self-care, especially in our society, is often commercialized, and it's often like face masks and bubble baths. Like, that's obviously like great, but it honestly isn't what everybody turns to in self-care, and it also can be inaccessible for some people because you have to purchase those things. So I think that self-care, we also talk about this in the Duck Nest as well, but self-care is really anything that you craft time for yourself that makes you feel better and promotes wellness. So that could be anything from, I love to listen to music. So on Spotify, they have weekly playlists that they curate for you every week. So like, I take time to listen to that music, you know? And then I also, sometimes I just need to lie on the floor. Like, that's also self-care. That's totally valid as well, you know? I think another thing is that self-care is very adaptable and dynamic as well. So some people love routine. They're like, I need to go on a run every day for 30 minutes, and that's awesome. And for other people, realistically, schedules change. There are midterms. There's so many different things that come up that naturally your self-care will change as well. So for me, I have walking groups that I go to on Tuesdays and Fridays. Like, that's in my self-care. And I love gardening as well with the urban farm, so that's my self-care. And then sometimes I will want to watch a movie, or if I need to do something more active, like maybe I'll exercise or something like that. So honestly, self-care is whatever you make of it, and it changes as well, and it can be very valid, and there's no such thing as like, that isn't self-care enough, you know? Like, there's no standard for self-care as long as it makes you feel better. I feel like you kind of underscored communal self-care. Like, you mentioned when we went on a walking group together that you went on, or actually David mentioned that he hung out with you and Leo the other day for hiking. Like, that's communal self-care. Like, self-care doesn't have to be an individual thing. It can also be branched out to your friends and family members. And I think that's also so vital as well, because like, that community piece can often be left out, especially in COVID when we're kind of like more isolated from each other. So self-care can be very beautiful, and like, it kind of amplifies everybody up when you're doing self-care together and taking care of each other as well. Like, that venting together, it's like, how are you doing? It's just checking in with each other. That's totally self-care as well, you know? That was something that I had to work through freshman year, and I feel like it's so intimidating as freshmen, right? You're going on a campus, and for me personally, it went from a pretty small, like, private school in like Portland that were 700 students to a like huge, in my mind, a huge campus. And so I honestly felt pretty lost, and I felt like I was a kid at summer camp, you know, on like weird or gigantic campus.
Yeah.
And so I feel like just understanding that everybody's feeling that way as well, so that you aren't alone, and also just knowing that if you reach out, people will respond, like individual people if you're just trying to make conversation, and also community groups as well. So I find that in like going to Duck Nest and just like seeking out opportunities. I feel like if you look for things, like, things will come. And another thing is that please feel free to go to things alone. I feel like when I was a freshman, there were some things that I wanted to go to, and I would invite some friends, and sometimes those plans would fall through, but I would just be like, you know what, I'm gonna go anyways. So like freshman year, I wanted to go to an acro yoga class, and it was like yoga with 2 people, you know, and you do it together, but those plans fell through, and I was like, I'm gonna go anyways. Like, I made 2 new friends that way, or like going to the outdoor program by yourself, and like, if you go by yourself, you'll most likely end up with new friends anyways. So just trying to be confident, I feel like the first step is just the attempt to do something new. And that's amazing. Like, give yourself props for that when you do that. And it might take some time, honestly. Like, some connections might not be immediate and deep immediately, but friendships and connections do take time to develop. And also just opening yourself up and being vulnerable and seeing vulnerability as strength is just like really important to commit to your mind as well. Like, I'm trying this, and giving yourself grace for when your growth isn't linear, because growth isn't linear. Sometimes you'll have some downfalls. Just giving yourself grace and like still trying, I think, is important. Also, reaching out to others if you need a counseling center, other people. Like, there's so many resources on campus to reach out and grow during this time in college. I feel like one thing that I have to mention is to prioritize your well-being. And because I feel like in college there's the grind culture that comes in. It's like, I'll be able to sleep after I finish this midterm. Or there's even competition, like, I only slept 2 hours, like, I only slept 1 hour, like, I pulled an all-nighter, you know? And I feel like I wish that we could come to a society and campus culture that really promotes well-being. Like, I got 9 hours of sleep and I'm like doing so well, and like I made time to go on a walk today, you know? Like, I feel like emphasizing even the little things is so important, because the habits that we make in college follow through in your life and afterwards, right? And so I feel like making these habits now, even though it might take a while, is just so important to make and to commit to. Viewing yourself as a holistic being and thinking beyond, like, I'm a student, but also like I'm a student and all these other things that you love about yourself, like your hobbies, right? Like, I love to volunteer, I love to go on walks, I love to spend time with friends or family. Like, throughout your life, there's so many different dimensions of yourself that it's obviously important to prioritize school because we are in college after all, but throughout your life, it's all balance, right? So just keeping that in mind and yeah, making sure you're taking care of yourself.
For sure. Well, thank you, Emma, for willing to take the time out of your day and coming and sharing about the darkness, about yourself, and all the tips and advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Angel.